So I wanted to do a quick video to respond to a couple of responses to Twitter posts that I put up in the last, I don't know, day or so. The first one was about difficult games. Here's what I wrote. Kenna, Metroid, Returnal, all leading the march towards super challenging games. Maybe it's the NES generation coming into their own as designers, but I fucking hate this shit. And it's not an age thing. I never liked it, but it wasn't so rampant. It's like devs want to push players away. Okay, so that has generated on my Twitter feed a relatively decent amount of pushback. And I just wanted to kind of address a couple of the things that come up. One is the idea that people saying this is not a trend. This is rare. Well, it might be rare if where you spend most of your gaming time is in the console space. And I know a lot of y'all do, because I always get people, I don't want to play those fucking indie games. Well, I play a lot of games. I play tons of console games, tons of indie games on Steam and itch.io and whatnot, and tons of cell phone games. So I play across the board and on all consoles, okay? So I get if you're only a console player and you're only a Sony player, most of what you're playing is relatively easy because those big budget, Uncharted games and stuff, I like some of those games a lot, but they're not that hard. I will agree with that. But if you're coming at it with a well-rounded diet of games or genres or different places to play and whatnot, then yeah, there's, especially in the indie space, probably for budget reasons, and also there's not a lot of play testing going on compared to big budget games. So my guess would be if a lot of there's this game Panzer Paladin that I loved. Like, take Shovel Knight. Shovel Knight was a huge hit. Great game, challenging in parts, but it was doable. I finished it. But Panzer comes out, Panzer Paladin, and I'm like, I think that's what it's called. And I'm like, oh sweet, another Shovel Knight kind of game. And I'm just like, fuck it, no, because all the reviews are like, it's punishingly hard. The checkpoints are miles away from each other. And I'm like, yeah, I'm not into that. Not for me, right? Well, that might be a budget thing. That might be a thing where a lot of these developers came up loving the NES and that kind of challenge, and now they're making their own games and they're putting that into there. I don't know. But I was simply saying that overall, my experience as a gamer, because I play across the board, is that yes, there's a lot of games that are getting, it's a trend. It's hard, punishing, challenging games as a good thing. And I don't like it. And that's pretty much all I was saying. As I tend to, it's my Twitter channel. I wasn't, having a discussion with someone like, oh, of course I respect your view if you like hard games. I don't care. But it's my Twitter feed, and I'm just like, I don't like this. So I posted it, right? People were, one of the ones I talked about was Kenna, and people were like, well, why don't you just drop the difficulty? Again, I just think as a guy who's designed games and worked in games and sat in plenty of play tests, gamers are weird to me in the sense that it's like you guys and ladies are comfortable doing the work of the developer. I shouldn't have to drop the difficulty in Kenna, and you shouldn't have to increase the difficulty in Kenna. Ideally, what we should be demanding is that the AI is able to recognize the player's status and adjust accordingly, right? But even that, though, with Kenna specifically, one of the brilliant things about Kenna, I love that game, is unlike a lot of these open world single player games where you pretty much have to be the pace director, Kenna is a throwback, which I loved, where it kind of takes you by the hand and says, we're going to give you some wide open spaces to run in, but we're going to show you a good time. The minute you start getting your ass kicked by like the first big boss, corrupted, whatever the fuck his name is, the only way I could get past it was to drop the difficulty. And it was the first time in 4 or 5 hours of play where I had to stop and go, oh, I guess I have to do the work and figure out, how to play how the game wants to be played, or how I need to play the game. And it takes you out of the immersion. It takes you out of the interactivity. I don't know why gamers are comfortable saying that should be my responsibility or your responsibility. I think that's absurd. But that's it sticks out like a sore thumb in Kenna, right? So, the other thing I would just like to say, a lot of the Twitter messages, and do with this what you will. I don't mean to kind of like geek shame you. I'm a total geek. I mean, look around me, right? Look at my life, right? But this kind of pride that people have in being good at video games, I'm not shaming for it. It's almost like, I'm bad at analogies on the fly, but it's almost like, hey, I'm really good at hot dog eating contest. It's like, okay, you're good at a video game. And people are like, haha, Kenna's not that hard. Ha. It's like, well, Kenna is cheap on some of the combat. Some of the collision hit volumes, the parrying time. I've made a video. You can go through and watch frame by frame. There's problems with that game in terms of the way the combat was executed at a code level or at a setup level of the characters. But it's a great game. But whether it's hard or not, okay, whatever. But so in AAA, you're kind of contributing to the problem, right? I mean, you are, okay? Which is a lot of these, not you specifically, I don't know you specifically, but a lot of these people I discuss with on Twitter are like, well, I'm not gonna play those trash indie games. I get that a lot when I say, oh, you should play this. Oh, it's a fucking indie game. I'm not playing that crap. Doesn't look great on a big TV. Blah, blah, blah. Fine. Well, you also complain about the cost. Cost of games are going up. They're not making as many games. Blah, blah, blah. Yeah, because they're expensive and because they're the risks. Okay. Well, and then you think it's fun to sort of push people away or to mock people who don't have or want to develop skill at a video game. And it's like, if you listen to like Sean Layden, don't listen to me. Listen to Sean Layden. Listen to Sean Layden saying, look, the audience for console gaming, not cell gaming, console gaming has not grown since the late 90s, right? It gets split across the pie, amongst the pie differently with Nintendo and Sony and Microsoft, depending on who's winning that generation. But you're not getting more than about 250 to 300 million people. So people are aging out or being bored out in large numbers of console gaming, okay? So you can sit there and laugh with your little stupid fucking emojis like, he thinks Kenna's hard, ha ha ha. Motherfucker, I'm 50 years old. I've been playing video games since before most of y'all were born. And I've been making video games since before a lot of y'all were born. So don't fucking come at me like you're some kind of expert and I just came to the fucking field like, oh, look, what's a video game? Oh, you move and the TV does stuff when I move the joystick. What's a joystick? I'm aware, bitch. And I'm also aware that if I can't think of another medium, frankly, that basically so actively shoves out anybody who isn't obsessed with getting good, right? When it comes to certain genres and certain games. And I'm not saying every game should be easy. I'm not saying that at all. But I'm saying if you're talking about AAA, and you're talking about budgets going through the roof, which they are, and then you're going, I don't want to pay more. I want more variety. I want more games coming out, but I don't want to play any fucking indie bullshit or AA bullshit. Well, something's got to give. And if you're not going to grow your audience, then what's going to give is probably you're going to get more of these games on console that do hold your fucking hand. So my point is, back the fuck up when you're sitting there acting like you're some kind of badass because you can play a fucking video game. Motherfucker, I've run 2 companies. I've made tons of hit games. I've helped birth 2 kids, raised 2 kids, paid mortgages, paid taxes. I've done all kinds of shit. So shut the fuck up. I'm good at Bloodborne. Great. I'm fucking good at making enough money and investing it where I can sit on my ass and stream all day. What's next? What do you want to compete with next, bitch? Oh, it's so obnoxious. Anyway, the other thing I tweeted about was it's like, Jesus, Jeffy, relax. I'm just annoyed. These fuckers come at me on Twitter and I'm annoyed. And I don't mind saying I'm annoyed. Some people would say, Jeffy, don't take the bait. I'm not taking the bait. I'm responding. It's kind of fun to respond. Okay, so number 2, I was talking about the first hour. I didn't even say the first hour, but I was talking about onboarding in video games. I did a tweet. In fact, I'll read you the tweet. How's that, fellas? I'll read you the tweet if I can find it. But the gist of it was something along the lines of games need to do a better job of engaging the player sooner, right, as the game begins. I can't quite find it right now, but you know what I'm saying. And people are coming at me like, no, it's art, and games, there can be slow burn this and that, and I'm like, it's like, I don't know if you guys just want to argue, okay? I'm not trying to piss in your fucking shit, dude, okay? what I'm saying to you is that there is value in onboarding and pacing video games. You would be surprised, it sounds like, that a lot of video game developers don't think too much about pacing, okay? They don't really have to, because you've spent 60 to 70 bucks on their title and you're a captive audience. You guys have a built-in buffer of maybe 3, 4, 5 hours before you give up on something because you paid for it, you downloaded it or brought it home from the goddamn store, and you're kind of committed. Well, that's kind of a get out of jail free card that you guys shouldn't be supporting developers on. You should be pushing back, okay? And people took this to mean that I'm like, oh, I don't like slow burn games or movies or whatever. And I'm like, there is a difference. Take the movie, there's better examples in movies or more examples in movies. Take Hateful Eight. Well, I loved Hateful Eight, right? But Hateful Eight is a slow burn opening movie. But slow burn does not mean boring. Just like not boring doesn't mean car chases and explosions. People immediately just assume shit. The Shining is slow burn opening, but both those movies, Hateful and Shining, are mentally engaging. You wonder what's this foreboding sense in both of those movies. All the characters in Hateful Eight are fascinating. When you've got Samuel Jackson and Kurt Russell riding in the fucking wagon and shit, heading to the bar or whatever, I think that's at the beginning, you're like, what the fuck is this? You know, you want to know more. So even though you're not seeing gunfights, your brain is just as engaged as watching a gunfight, maybe even more, okay? Which is why a movie like Captain Marvel, which I thought was fine, but was pretty boring. It opens with all this action, but there's nothing really engaging about it. It's just we've seen this over and over and over. Well, all I'm saying is that there's a difference in video games between a video game that is poorly paced at the beginning, where it doesn't seem to really give a fuck about bringing you in and engaging your mind. It doesn't have to be action shooty shoot, but it's got to be something compelling. And trust me, some of my my favorite game last year, almost the second favorite game, was literally a game about taking shit out of boxes and putting them on shelves. I don't need gunfights. I don't need car chases. I just need my brain to be engaged, okay? I'm talking about the difference between poorly paced games, which should not be forgivable, be it a review or your own taste, or a difference between poorly paced games and slow burn openings. Slow burn openings is great. Slow burn doesn't mean boring, right? Slow burn should never mean boring. It just means you're not getting to the meat of the core plot yet, but you're still engaging the brain of the consumer. There you go. 12, 13 fucking minutes of me just rambling. I'm sorry. I know people are like, I don't know. The fact is it annoys me. It does. I don't know. I mean, I guess a more mentally healthy person would just say, I don't worry about it. But it's just like, this is an easier way to push back. I mean, I'm looking at these right here. I'm just looking at my Twitter, and it's just like, all these dicks. There's not all, but there's a lot of these people are nice, but a lot of these are just, oh, you got to get good. Fuck off, man. You got to get some taste in video games, and you got to get a bigger picture of the market and stop thinking like everything's only you. I do this channel, because I love games, I'm a gamer, and also because I made games, and I was in the business, and I love the business aspect of it. So I'm talking about all these fucking things. So it's not just you in your own little fucking place playing your game on your big TV going, I'm the fucking center of the world. I'm thinking about it at a business level. All right, take it easy, fellas. Bye.